But when I got there, it was fucking ridiculous, mate. Like this woman, Leah, who's this like, I think her handle on Twitter or Instagram is like the Jewish cowgirl. She's like playing a guitar on top of a horse. So yeah, after my old man died, I was like, okay, I'll carry on doing this for a little bit, but I need to do something for myself. I'm gonna like respond as positively as I can to this scenario, right? So I gave it kind of, 8 to 10 months afterwards, and then did a 3-month filmmaking course in New York, because one of my big regrets at university was not doing a more practical course. So I picked my university course pretty haphazardly. I actually had Chinese studies in there as well to start with, film and Chinese studies. Like,
why not?
The mind boggles me. Learning Mandarin turns out it's pretty fucking hard.
It is. Yeah, I've tried for a year and it is very difficult. It gets harder as well somehow the more you learn.
I was absolutely fucking off my face in a Chinese restaurant in Soho the other day, and I was just trying to read off everything I could remember, and the waitresses and waiters were fucking pissing themselves. I was just like, I like swimming. My mum's a lawyer. Like, out loud, that's all I could remember. I like hamburgers. But yeah, just to go back to your point, I was disappointed that I hadn't done something more practical at university, because that's where I excelled. Like theory, essays, like I could get by. Like I was naturally like reasonably intelligent, but like I didn't excel, didn't necessarily push myself in that regard. It felt very arbitrary. Like, why am I writing this essay about how Ang Lee's The Hulk relates to the, current political climate in whatever, So yeah, I wanted to do something really hands-on, and New York was incredible, mate. Class. Like, even thinking about it, like I can almost feel it. I remember one of my student videos, I put out something on Backstage. It was a website where you basically go and find young directors, go and find young actors, and like overnight I had like 200 applicants, and then like the next day I was doing like what are they called when you have people in? Jesus, I've just forgot the term for it. Like auditions.
Okay.
And like people are auditioning to be in my student film, and I'm sat there like, Billy Big Bollocks, and they want to be in this, and they're like going through these roles and monologues, and I'm like a boy from Leicester, I'm like, this feels so far out of whack with reality. Like, I'm like, and it just kind of pinged in my head like, oh, this is how things happen. Like, it's not necessarily that these things aren't available to you. It's you're not in the right place, or you're not surrounding yourself with the right people. And like, you can take yourself off to the opportunity. Like, your physical location does matter. So when I had that sort of brainwave, I was like, fuck it, let's go. I've got to go to London. It's the only city in the UK that compares. And how I found Football Daily was just came across them on this website called Production Base. It was like editor needed to create football videos for YouTube. And I was like, fucking hell, if I can't do that, I can't really do much. So it's blown me out. So, spooky. So I eventually just, submitted a CV. One of my interviews was like, how many of these 10 footballers can you name? And it was John Babb teeing me up with this like Word document. And I got 10 out of 10. And then I changed fucking, who was it? Oh, John Altridge to, who did John Altridge play with? Ian Rush. I got them two mixed up, and they were like, "No, that's fine. Like, that's pretty niche. Clearly, you know your football." And got the job. And I was a competent editor then. I wasn't great. Like I'd done it at university. Like I'd I'd volunteered for the student television station, and a lot of guys there had imparted wisdom into me that I hadn't learned on my course. I did learn sort of the essentials of filmmaking and narrative and that sort of stuff in New York. So I had an okay skill set, but they weren't, the money was low. So like they weren't looking for anyone with great experience, and along I came and we sort of took it from there. And the reason that we were able to take it to another level was just because we got, from there on in, it was just like complete kind of creative freedom. and it was me, Pat, and Joe to start off with. Yeah.
Great stuff. Great stuff. I want to touch on your experience in New York, because that's a place it's top of my list at the moment of places I want to go. I imagine for you there was this unreal feeling of being in one of the world's biggest creative bubbles at that point, especially for you to try and hone your craft. Do you remember that whole experience very vividly? And also, was it the thing that you needed at that stage in your grievance period after your dad passed away? Did that help you sort of expand your look on life as a whole?
No, that's a great question. And I definitely needed something to look forward to, like a belief that it's not all just going to be this black hole of despair. Like I think that's how generally I respond to shit's going wrong. It's like, let me make a list and let me get as much of this list done as possible in as little time as possible. Like, let's just get to fucking work. So I needed something to look forward to, for sure. And like I said before, when I think about New York, I don't think I comprehended at the time how special it was, but it was special. And I got the rub of the green. Like, I ended up staying with some really eccentric people, and people that you can be in a big city and feel alienated, right? Like, when I first got there, I felt like Stuart Little. Like, I'd never seen a fucking skyline like it. Like, it's so claustrophobic. It is literally falling down on you. And you can easily, like I said, feel alienated or a little bit overwhelmed. But I ended up staying at, I found this house in the financial district on, what's it called, Airbnb. And I knew that it was going to be a little bit bohemian because it was called the Tree House on Airbnb. But when I got there, it was fucking ridiculous, mate. Like, this woman, Leah, who's this, like, I think her handle on Twitter or Instagram is like the Jewish cowgirl. She's like playing a guitar on top of a horse. And she sent someone out to come find me. They took me off to like Justino's Pizza, it was called. I had a great pizza, like slice of pizza when I first got there because I was starving. And they took me back to the treehouse. And they were like, fucking fly my room. They're like, this is your room. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, who's that sleeping on the sofa though? That was like 10 yards from my door. And they were like, oh, that's what was his name? It was a Brazilian. What was his name? Oh, I'm going to be so annoyed with myself if I don't remember his name. I will get it in a second. I've got him saved in my phone. They were like, he just sleeps here sometimes. And it turned out like he was a Brazilian saxophone player who played like gigs at local bars and stuff. And he needed somewhere to crash. And like 2 days later, he took me to play five-a-side with all his friends. And that was just like, again, I got to know different parts of the city and different people just by straight away being immersed in like a really colourful array of characters. Like a week later, she had like this massive fat Italian lad around called Frank making us these like huge meatballs and stuff. And then like he would take us to like a little restaurant or a little bar or something that he knew. And you get these like little snippets, these little tidbits, and it makes you feel much more at home. So I guess I was fortunate in the way that I had this like network immediately by proxy, right? Through staying at the treehouse. But yeah, just being in the school, the New York Film Academy, like it was a stuff of dreams. I went, grew up in Leicester. To be honest, anything to do with the arts probably perceived as a little bit fruity, for want of a better word. You're seen as an eccentric, like no one does drama at school. The drama department doesn't even take itself seriously. My mum had a dance school, so I used to go to that dance school, and I used to, enjoy, I guess, being the center of attention when I was doing little performances. But then you get to about 9, 10, and you're like, okay, I should be playing football. I shouldn't be doing this. And that's just the general consensus, and you're not encouraged to kind of think otherwise. And it's not that my parents force that upon me, but you kind of go with your peers. I wasn't individualistic at 9, 10 years old. I was like, all right, now I play football. But then going back to this school year, the New York Film Academy, you walk in and there's people rehearsing lines together on the left, someone playing piano in a room on the right, and someone's doing like performative dance, expressive dance or whatever. And then you've got a corner of people in the room, like going over all this equipment together and practicing, you know, setting it up and getting everything finally tuned and getting it right. And you're like, this is the environment I realize now that I've always wanted to be in. So yeah, it was kind of a bit of an epiphany, and it took a matter of days before I felt like shit, this is going to be really good for me, even if it's not what I necessarily do somewhere down the line. So yeah, kind of throwing myself into that environment, I guess, then spurred me on to have the courage to move from Leicester to London, because it felt, you know, in comparison, a relatively small step.